This is Create the Next from ProCFO Partners, where every week we explore strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help today's businesses put their financial picture in context.
Welcome back to Create the Next. I'm Chris Bintliff, and my good friend Nelson Tepfer, the CEO at ProCFO Partners, is back with us. Nelson, I always start every episode we do together with, man, I love to talk to you, because we just have interesting conversations and you've got such interesting ideas about things. And today I want to talk about AI, which is all anybody wants to talk about. But I feel like that's a great big. I think people are thinking about it too big or too small, and I'm wondering what you're thinking about it from the CFO lens. What should a CFO in an organization be thinking about? From a pro CFO lens, what are you doing? How are you thinking about it? Let's just get into it a little bit.
Chris, thank you. Always enjoy our conversations. So to your point, AI is this big, massive hot topic in conversation. And for many of our clients, one of the ways we push the conversation forward is it doesn't need to be this whole big, scary thing. Very often, to make it palatable, to make it consumable, to make it easy to digest, it really becomes, what is one of the problems we're facing today? And is this something AI can help with?
Now, how do you quantify that?
Very basic.
So what are some of those?
Yeah, sure. We'll give it for instance. So this past month, I wrote an article, for instance, on planning that companies should be doing scenario planning, especially because many are facing challenges in the current economic environment for various reasons. Across all of our clients, about half are facing challenges, half are doing great. And that's probably true for many small to mid-sized businesses, depending on what they're doing and where and how they operate. But take scenario planning, for instance, which for us, it's, we look at it as where many companies go wrong is they treat it as a one-time exercise instead of a living discipline. But that's an entirely separate conversation we can get into. For more information, check out the Inc. article that we wrote about it. But scenario planning, for instance, using AI for this as a thought partner from a CFO's perspective very often is, hey, what are the different scenarios that will impact my company? Give AI whichever one you choose to use as your choice. We're not going to get into which one is better or worse, but take any one that you care to choose. Give it a basic profile of the company. Ask it to pick some of the basic scenarios in good, better, best, or horrible scenarios, and the things that you can or should be preparing for it. Just as a thought partner, that's a fantastic way to begin thinking about it for business leaders to be thinking about it in their organizations. But some of the real practical, tactical, operational issues become much more interesting when companies begin to think about this. For instance, a company which may have 3 people doing things within an organization, which it worked for them for the past 5, 10, 15, 20, X number of years that they've been working this way. Suddenly it becomes, hey, we're facing rising talent challenges. And obviously the cost of talent keeps going up over here. How can we be investing in productivity? And so when we start looking at it through that lens, then it becomes, oh, yes, we have these people doing it. But what if we just change this little item over here, we can either shorten the amount of time they spend doing this so they're not always behind and will be caught up. Or do we need 3 people there? Maybe we can repurpose one of them to this other area, which we need them to focus on and only do it with 1.5 or 2 people in this particular environment. Mm-hmm. And we see this across many companies and many different industries, whether it's billing, processing, invoicing, matching across different things that companies very often need to go through. So many of the processes companies build are there and they've worked for the company for whatever period of time. But now it becomes there are so many other ways that companies can be doing this. You just need to approach it through that lens of what is the problem we're really trying to work with through over here. And companies are always facing challenges and problems. But from our perspective, it's also opportunities to improve, opportunities to be better, opportunities to set you on the right track of growth and success.
There is so much to unpack. And a couple things really resonated with me that you were sharing. I think there's I don't want to call it intimidation, but if that exists, often it's because either the headlines are AI is doing this, which isn't really maybe hitting me in my 9 to 5, or it seems too big and vague, and folks are focusing on the tool and not the technique. So I love that you were introducing. It doesn't matter which tool, but if we're using ChatGPT or Perplexity, or if we're using Claude, that's the tool. They're all very similar in a lot of respects, but you said use it as a thought partner. How much, which I love, and it's a great collaborator. AI, I say this to my clients, AI is not a great creator, but it's a great collaborator. It helps to shape your own thoughts and your own ideas about things and gives you feedback that maybe you wouldn't have thought of based on a lot of data. But my question for you is, AI is injected into so many tools that we use without even realizing it. So when you're thinking about scenario planning, do you like to, I don't know, refer to those tools, this piece of software, plug in these three things and AI will do it? Or do you like to, I don't know, help organizations begin that interface of communicating with an AI so that they can be a little bit more hands-on with that or a little bit more collaborative? What do you like?
From my perspective, it very often becomes meet the organization where they are and then set them on the path to what the future can be for them. If an organization has some more tools embedded already, we don't need to reinvent the wheel and say, nope, this tool is horrible, don't ever use it again kind of thing. It becomes great. How can we augment it through this level of insight? If they're starting from base case of zero and not doing anything, and for many companies, they don't really do much by way of scenario planning, or if they did it, it was a one-time exercise they happened to do a year and a half ago at one point and set it aside. Whereas with things going on, currently, that's a much more of a live and living document for preparation. Very often, if they don't have anything in place, then start there. Hey, just throw your basic things at what you've got. Give it a basic profile of your company. Give it some basic numbers, nothing specific, because there are still obviously security concerns, which can or may not be able to be addressed with different levels of subscriptions and other tools. Great. But for argument's sake, we say, great, don't give it anything specific about your company. Don't give it a company name. Just give it some basic profiles and ranges for where you are as an organization from a performance perspective, and then have it try and do it. Is it going to be 100% accurate? No. Should you be making true financial decisions without somebody else reviewing this and exercising it? No. But does it give you an idea of what's possible or what may or may not be happening when you're talking about a scenario? Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit more about that productivity, and especially what is a CFO in an organization? What are they spending time doing that they could be offloading, or they could be shortening that process if they just did X, Y, and Z? What are you seeing a lot of?
So there's two pieces to that. Investing in productivity very often is that CFO's lens that needs to be thinking about what is the ROI when we're going to invest in these, and really what's possible to drive greater productivity in the company. Productivity for most organizations, yes, will obviously hit the bottom line, but it's also the strategic initiative. If you're not moving forward here, your competitors certainly are, and other players in your space certainly are, and you need to be thinking ahead to remain competitive. Not because, we need to make more profit than they make, but more you need to be successful. And obviously, if you're fall behind the rest of your industry or other ones, there's obviously some concerns that are going to come up when you're lagging the rest of your industry. So when we talk about investing in productivity, there's two lenses. Again, we'll look at it from the companies that we're actually working with who are utilizing this correctly. We've seen companies invest in AI agents, which are not that expensive to spin up, not because, agents are the new thing and they can do everything. They can do lots of things. But again, we approach it through the lens of what is the challenge we have? What are our possible solutions of how we can solve this challenge for ourselves? What is our problem? Not what we're doing in the market, not what we're doing for our customers. What is one of the challenges? And again, I'll go back to the example I referenced earlier. There's a company that literally had 3 people doing a lot of manual processing for how they needed to input information from where it was coming from one area to another one. And I also joke about this, and you've heard me joke about this, is that technically AI versus RPA versus whatever that is. Frankly, we don't care. If it's investing in productivity and it helps you run a leaner, better, more profitable organization, let's do it. We don't really care what the label is. So there's an aspect for many companies when it comes to updating processes of how they're currently running their financial operations, which you can look at it through as, hey, this is what we're currently doing. Is there an opportunity to have for AI or a tool that can actually make this better, leaner, faster, cheaper, or require less man hours to deliver the same result? And we're pushing many companies to begin thinking about it, not because that's all it can do, but because it's easy for business owners and leaders to wrap their head around this specific problem. I have 6 people in this department doing this. If we make it easier to flow in this department, I need 6? Not because we're firing people, but because can 2 of them be utilized in other areas where they can drive more value in the organization or things along those lines. We like approaching it as, hey, we're facing this problem, or we know we needed to modernize or change this department for some time. Great. Then maybe look at what other things that you can bring into that department through AI that can actually streamline some of these kind of things to drive more productivity in that environment. But that's through that lens of where we're having conversations with our clients. Because to your point, many business owners and leaders don't know where to start when it comes to AI. It is this big monster topic. Again, many owners, what we find, are using it, but they're using it as they're playing with ChatGPT. Create content is great. There's a lot of things that they're using it for. For us, we're trying to push it as, what does it mean for your business to drive real success in your company? Not just that you have an idea. Great. You have an idea that ChatGPT helped you refine. Well, wonderful. what does that look like in driving that through your business to actually have real results?
Um, the, you know, you're right. A lot of leaders are using ChatGPT to write this email or give me language for the webinar we're having, which is okay. But as you're pointing out, there is a deep analytical sensibility and collaborative sensibility and data sensibility that AI can be really useful in. How do I, you and I are similar in that we're both technologically curious and adept. So when something like AI shows up, we're both like digging in elbows deep within an hour, but not everybody's like that. What do I need? So start where I'm at, or I'm at nothing, or I'm intimidated by technology, period. I usually have that person over there help me with this. Do I need a AI expert? Do I need training? Do I need to have somebody on my team become the AI expert? How do I get started thinking bigger about this?
I think anyone who's listened to our conversations before may have noticed I'm a little bit of a cynic and a skeptic. So anytime someone tells me AI expert, I'm always like, really? This whole thing's been around for like less than 3 years. There's an expert on this already, like that, and it keeps changing faster than anyone can really keep track of, but there's an expert. That being said, there are definitely solutions that companies can be doing. With all that skepticism, I'm saying there are definitely solutions and people who can help organizations solve problems. We as CFOs are getting involved in directing some of those conversations because, again, for companies that don't know where to start, very often we're like, okay, what are some of our current challenges we're working through right now? Let's start there because that allows us to say, if this is our challenge, what are the possible range of solutions that AI can therefore assist with to actually do this? How far you go on that journey, again, once we start, it becomes much easier to say, oh, and it can also do this, and we can change this, and we can change this. Great. But it starts with understanding what is the problem we're currently facing in our organization, internally ourselves, that we're trying to do better, differently, change. What does that really look like? Or we've been struggling with this for 3 years and we've just been putting Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on it. Every organization has these areas within their companies. Very often it becomes, hey, we've been doing this for some time. What else can we do? It just becomes another solution to explore to start that journey. And once you do start down on it, then you begin to figure out and learn what is possible that you can bring into the organization from that side to really drive that success.
How are you using it? How is ProCFO Partners using it? How are you as a CEO using AI on the regular?
All right, so that was like 3 different questions. We'll try.
as I do, Nelson. You're the cynic and skeptic, and I'm the guy with the shotgun approach to questions. But pick your favorite.
No. So here at ProCFO, I mean, a lot of our conversations internally are we absolutely have used it to streamline some of our own internal processes for how we start with clients to get everyone up to speed and on board. It used to be a process that would take several people several hours. We now do that in several minutes because. And again, this goes to what is the solution? It's not just, oh, put in information in AI and it solves your problem for you. It's a very thoughtful approach. What are the pieces that we actually need to build to get to this result? And if we need to have 4 people on our team up to speed to kick off a client in a way that's going to drive success when we get started, great. What is the information we have? How can we gather it? And we built a very detailed, pretty extensive prompt that allowed us to gather a lot of that information from all the different sources that then pulls all this seamlessly through. Now, we do pay for higher levels of subscriptions to ensure security because we obviously are dealing with information, which is, we have to be very careful about. And even with that level of security, we're still very careful with the specific information that gets put in there. But that's just one example that we chose to look at internally ourselves. From an accounting side of things and bookkeeping, AI will continue to drive massive changes there in general. When categorizing transactions or any of these things like this, it gets really, really good at pattern recognition to say, oh, well, these over here, as well as to what are the exceptions that we need to be asked or the human input for. AI, we believe, is not going to replace humans. At this stage, it's a lot more about augmenting. Him and her is a conversation that comes up in AI, which stands for human in the middle or human enhanced responses. That's very often the easiest way to get started with some of these. Again, can it replace certain people on certain functions? Absolutely. Does that mean the jobs of people are going to be disappearing? Absolutely not. It will become about productivity around this. So here at ProCFO Partners, we have used it and will continue to use it to support how we're supporting our clients and from our own internal operations. In my role, very often this does become some of that thought partner. We're thinking about doing this, as we're planning for 2-3 years down the road. I'm thinking of these three scenarios. What else haven't I thought about? Is one of my favorite ones
Mm.
to actually do this. Very often in our own thought logic, in our own thought patterns, we get stuck in looking through that. Okay, what's only in our head? And very often, spotting blind spots is a great way for business leaders to be thinking about it. Now, obviously, that comes with some of its own dangers as well. Very often, as business leaders, we move forward because we didn't know all the other things that could happen. And sometimes, if we did know about some of those kind of things, we wouldn't necessarily take the steps we need or want to take. So it is obviously the fun balancing act. But when we're planning several years down the road, or we're doing our own scenario planning, it's like, hey, we're looking at this. We want to go into this business unit. We're thinking about a new region. We want to try this service offering for our clients. Very often, just a thought partnering, aside from the partnering that we get to do within our own team as a team of CFOs, which is fantastic. Sometimes it just becomes the precursor work, the things that we would automatically be doing in our heads. How do we put some of this stuff down on paper to formulate the thoughts more coherently or more completely to begin to actually take action on these?
I love what you're sharing, and it introduces a couple different thoughts for me. One is, that idea of AI as a speed enhancer. I'm thinking of times when I have put in a spreadsheet, and I'm not a spreadsheet wizard, and it would have taken me a long time to Google solutions for something, and I can just tell it, filter this by this and give it back to me by this. And it's, as you pointed out, it's minutes instead of me spending an hour trying to slog through something. That's an example of kind of a tactical approach, but you're introducing an idea of how do you communicate with it. I love your example. I often say to it, where am I wrong? This is what I'm thinking. Where am I wrong? And it might not give me something valuable, but it gives me something new to think about. That's a skill set. And you pointed out you've got kind of a robust prompt. These are not things that you have to spend time with it to sort of understand it. How should I be thinking about this? It's a new skill development. It's a new thing. You've had to teach your team a little bit. How do I think about that as a leader, the skills development of this?
So there are a couple things of how, and this goes back to the leadership role in driving AI and change within an organization. One of the things we did was on our leadership team meetings, we added a section talking about what have you tried new in AI this past week?
Nice.
Doesn't need to be a long conversation, but it drives the point home. Like, we know how important this is. Share this. None of us are the AI expert yet, but we still want to know the different things that we're each coming across through the lenses of what we have and we're working with within our own organization and with our clients. What else have you seen? So it becomes trying to embed this as a culture of being being curious about this and not being afraid to do this. Where can we test? Where can we try? Where can we do different pieces? Because ultimately, with any new technology, there is an adoption factor, which we can't just say, great, now everyone's using AI in the company, and watch how well that actually works. So it becomes, okay, what are the pieces that we can take the company along that journey? To your point about the skill, again, they have to be curious first. They have to see how it actually means for them. So what is that communication? But there are some basic tools that we actually help many of our team members, as well as many of our clients. The basics of prompt engineering. What are the different layers you can do this? Yes, you can ask your question like this, but if you put in these 3-4 other sentences, watch how the answer change. Just take it through an example like that, and then give them the basic guide so they can go test it or try some of these pieces on their own. There isn't a universal right or wrong way. It's the result we're trying to get to, which is to get people curious, to get people to try it, to get people to see what's potentially possible here so they can explore solutions.
This idea of systematizing curiosity as you do is genius and such a simple, small thing. What have you tried this week in AI? Like, just make that a line item in your leadership meetings and the conversation becomes a lot more dynamic.
Departmental meetings. I mean, we drive it here at our company this way, as an organization. Remember, we're a company of leaders in general, here at ProCFO Partners. But for many companies, great, do it in the department. Here, this business unit over here, just have that conversation. Once a week is too often, great, do it once every other week. But have them share stories of how else they're using it. Get people interested in trying it. Oh, I never thought about asking it that or trying it this way over there. That curiosity is contagious, frankly, because companies, we have the people who are like, no, I don't want to think about it. Yeah, but you start telling them stories about how everyone else in their similar role to them are using it, are exploring it, are testing it. Someone's like, oh, maybe that's not so. Maybe I'll try that a little bit and see what actually happens. Maybe I'll test that. And suddenly you have some of them who are hesitant at first. They become the biggest advocates for this very often.
Nelson, I want to have 17 more conversations about this with you. You mentioned some things that we won't have time to get into, and I think are interesting for us to discuss. One of them is the competitive advantage or the reality that whether you're comfortable or not, your competitors are in it. So what are you going to do in response? One of them is just, what are you talking about prompt engineering? What is that now? And by the way, if you've got big questions, get in touch with us. We can help clear that out. But maybe there are some smaller of those introductory steps, that because as this is a business, a dynamic business event, it's we have a responsibility to, as you're doing, connect on it. Nelson, thank you so much for bringing this level of your expertise. It's always great when we get into my wheelhouse a little bit too, because I'm not the numbers genius you are, but I love to get into this stuff too. So that's really great. And I appreciate
maybe next one I'll interview you instead.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, that sounds great. But Nelson, come back and let's have more conversations about this, maybe even a series or something. I don't know, but I think business leaders out there could probably really benefit from a better understanding. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Visit ProCFOPartners.com for more strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help you put your business's financial picture in context.